Hello Earthlings, welcome to my room. Samantha and I often get comments on our YouTube channel or on our website that accuse us of never having had a testimony of Jesus or the church or whatever. This is a really common logical fallacy, not used just by Mormons, but by anyone of any belief system, that when the belief system comes under criticism, rather than understanding and addressing the criticism, people deflect by trying to attack the character of the person delivering the criticism. Classic, shoot the messenger instead of listening to the message. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about my testimony of Jesus Christ. Like most people watching this channel, I was born in the LDS church. Religion was the center of my family, and not just religion, but like Christ himself. My parents were both very kind, loving, generous people, and so I saw this strong example of Christ-like behavior toward other people, and that had a really profound effect on me as a kid growing up. As I progressed in my own spirituality and had profound emotional experiences in the church, my testimony of Christ grew. I can remember sitting in church hearing Silent Night being sung by the church choir and just crying and feeling overwhelmed with love that Jesus came to earth to save a wretched sinner like me. And then, later on singing I Know That My Redeemer Lives and the EFY medley. Come to think of it, there's a lot of song testimony. I think music might be the truest part of the church. That's when I had all my emotional, spiritual experiences, because music's powerful. And at the time, I associated those experiences with Jesus, and because I was taught this way, assumed that Mormons were the only ones having this type of experience, that everyone else was having some kind of, fake, phony, almost there, an imitation of the true spiritual experience. So, I'm having these deep, profound experiences, and then one in particular, I felt so insecure as a kid because I had vitiligo, I was really small, easily picked on, and just was like feeling very down about myself. And then one night, I read a book that made me feel like, oh my God, my body's actually a blessing, and wow, isn't it so great that I can, move and talk and see and hear and think, and wow, isn't this so great? So I'm sitting there praying, and as I'm praying, I feel this like beam of light go directly into my heart, and the words, I know you, just like resonated through my body. And I just was overwhelmed. I was weeping and just saying, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Because I knew then that Jesus was real because he was talking to me. I knew that he loved me, and when the creator of the universe loves you, you're capable of doing anything. So it gave me just all this confidence in the world, and the type of confidence not just to be some big shot, but to realize that everybody else was just as worthy of that love that Christ showed me as I was. Anytime someone was, ornery or didn't jive well or kind of weird, I'd just look at that person and try to see them the way that Christ saw them. Because I knew that when, he was suffering and dying, he was thinking about them just as much as he was thinking about me. And so in the same way that he was, my advocate, I needed to be an advocate for other people. On my mission, I was in the MTC, and there was a missionary who was just kind of weird, kind of socially awkward, and other missionaries would kind of poke fun at him and would kind of laugh behind his back. And I found that really off-putting. I hate seeing anybody picked on for just being themselves. And so I wrote this poem, and I'm sharing it so that you can just get an idea of how deeply I really felt and believe this. And to show you a little insight into Mormon Tanner's poetry. It's so kitschy, it belongs in Deseret Book. Let's go. There was a young man in a little town. Few people knew his name, but his awkward nature and ignorance often brought him undue shame. Behind his back the people laughed and considered it no sin, until finally in front of him the taunting did begin. More and more they teased each day, and more spiteful their teasing grew. Nobody really could quite explain, it was just the thing to do. Then one day there drew a crowd round the misfit boy to tease. The people laughed and clapped their hands when he sank down to his knees. One person started yelling and tried to pick a fight. Another person grabbed the boy and shoved with all his might. Then from the crowd stepped forth a man, who approached the frightened child, and lifting him with imprinted hands, looked into his eyes and smiled. Then at once he turned his gaze and stared at the thoughtless crowd, fixing fiery eyes on them until each and all had bowed. With majesty they'd never known, the fever of the crowd now dim, he spoke the words that touched their hearts. You don't know what I've done for him. You do not know the... God, this is making me teary because I feel... I'll just finish this. You don't know the love I feel for one so small as he. It was for him I bled and died. He means everything to me. It was silent for a moment as the people lowered their eyes. Then what the man did next took them by surprise. He went forth among the people and called them each by name, and teary-eyed he hugged them all, for he loved them just the same. Each and every one of us is unique in our own way. We all have many faults and quirks. We all sin every day. Here's the way to make a change in how we treat each other. Remember that what Christ did for me, he did also for my brother. You know, regardless of my feelings about Jesus now, that sentiment still is really strong with me. That, you know, the person across the street who I've never met is just as valuable of a human being as I am. The people who watch our videos and feel like they're being attacked, I see them as just as valuable and their lives just as worthy and deserving of happiness as is mine. And that's what makes doing this kind of work so hard, is because people don't really get to see that. They see my pain, they see my anger, and yet not very often do they see that anger and that pain through the medium of creation, be it YouTube or art or poem or whatever, is a way of processing that pain in order to ease that pain and suffering in other people. And so I share that, like I said, to show you that I really did feel that it was something that was not just like a tangential part of my identity or beliefs, that it was a core part of who I was and what I wanted to be, and my intentions going into everything. And losing that was the hardest thing ever. So what do I think about Jesus now? I see Jesus as an archetype of an awakened person. And by awakened, I mean someone who's woken up to the limitations of their own culture. Jesus was famous for criticizing the religion of his day. I, of course, respect the hell out of that, because he recognized that spirituality is more than these institutions, it's more than these structures, it's much more than, you know, worshiping a person. It was all about not letting a person stand in between you and your relationship to the great other. Whether you call that God, whether you call that the universe, whether you call that Tao or Brahma, it doesn't matter. Your connection with the wider range of creation is between you and that alone, that no one has to stand in as a medium between you and that. And that's what Christ did when he rent the veil of the temple, when the atonement made man and God one. And he did that by taking upon him the sins and sufferings of other people, so that he could understand how to comfort them in their afflictions, according to the Book of Mormon. And I love that idea. I still love that idea, that when I meet someone, my responsibility as an awakened person is to try to understand them, to feel what they've gone through, so that I can withhold judgment and be their advocate. And in many ways, it's that attitude that led me out of the church. Jesus never said, love your religion. He said, love your neighbor. And so the more that I saw that people were putting the institution before individual people, the more I saw that that was not the Christianity that I had been, conditioned to believe in. And, it's not just a matter of, oh, people are human and we need to cut them the slack. Because we need to cut them slack. I don't blame anyone for being who they are. Dallin H. was just indoctrinated to be Dallin H. It's not his fault, he is who the universe spat him out as. And I have empathy for who he is as a person, while also recognizing the damage that he and other church leaders have cultivated toward people who are most vulnerable and most deserving of love and support and Christ-like empathy. So as an archetype of an awakened person, Christ compels all of us. And it's not just Christ, but other awakened individuals. You know, it doesn't matter who they are, Krishna or Buddha or whoever. This idea that you need to stand in the place of other people, that you need to feel what they felt so that you can understand how to be their advocate and their ally. I don't think that there's a better example right now than the church's attitudes and practices toward the LGBT community. For many years, the church has tried to criminalize homosexual activity. The church has fought gay marriage on all fronts and continues to fight in other countries where it's still not legal, rather than simply extending a hand of love. That's one of my biggest beef with the church, is that they're so intent on establishing the institutional procedures that they've, blinded themselves from being able to exercise the power of their religion, which is extending love and compassion and true Christ-like empathy toward people who have been marginalized. So today I don't see Christ as the one and only Son of God. I see him as a Son of God, of the universe, of the Tao, whatever. Someone who's realized that you're just the intersection of all creation and that you yourself are a God, that you are the universe experiencing consciousness through the medium of your own body, and that you get to decide the creative influence that you have on the world. You become a co-creative part of the universe. I think that's what Christ means to me. It's not to say that every single thing that is recorded in the Bible is literally true. It doesn't mean that I have to, pick a Christian religion to worship at every day, because he's not the only Son of God. Every person, or daughter of God, or whatever, however you want to put that, because it's not being a son or a daughter that's important. It's about you experiencing the greatest degree of consciousness. Ken Wilber is a psychologist and philosopher who I've gotten into recently, and I like his explanation of the sort of development of consciousness that starts out as egocentric. Me, my body, my life, my rules. And gradually most people move past that into an ethnocentric view of the world, which is my people. And most religions are stuck at an ethnocentric viewpoint, which is that we are the chosen people, our prophet or our messenger is the one and only true prophet or messenger, or our God is the one and true God. Everybody else is deceived, lying, experiencing just a portion of the light. People like Jesus, I believe, were able to see beyond that and go from being ethnocentric to world-centric, to realizing everybody has a portion of the truth, and that it's not us that needs to give it to others, but I can draw truth in from every paradigm and every belief structure, because they're all part of who I am as the intersection of everything. You can even move past that into a cosmocentric view, which is that I am, the universe entire embodied, that I look out at the stars and I see myself. I can extend myself to the furthest reaches of the universe. And that's, what God consciousness is, the ability to do that and to recognize all sentience as equally deserving of love and respect and kindness, etc. So Christ isn't the only one, there's many others. Even Joseph Smith had a degree of the truth. I hate this dichotomy that's been set up where it feels like I'm trying to tear down all of Mormonism and just, do away with it. People are under the impression that I just want to see religion erased from, the records of history, and that's not true at all. Religion has showed us how consciousness has evolved, and it's been an important part of our culture and development. But just because it's been that doesn't mean it always has to be that. As Christ himself showed the Jews, spirituality can be much more personal and it can be much more powerful. So that's what, Samantha and I and all the other people engaged in ex-Mormon or ex-religious communities, well, I shouldn't speak for everybody, but that's what a lot of us are concerned with, is not, just tearing it down. You've never had any spiritual experience. Everything you've experienced is fake and a lie and a scam. It's more complex than that. And it sucks that we get stuck in these limited binaries of all or nothing, because I don't see it like that. I can appreciate the figure and the archetype of Christ and still, do work that criticizes Christianity, that takes a better look at the Bible or all of religion and says, what should we discard from this? What no longer works? In today's modern scientific world, what can we do away with and say, yeah, that's just the product of magical thinking at a time when people believe this kind of thing, but now that we have science we can understand better. How do we move on to a greater degree of consciousness and integrate the good parts of Christianity and Mormonism into a better future where we're able to use that Christ-like compassion to bring in people who have been marginalized, which is what I believe Christ's message was really all about. So that's my testimony of Jesus. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.